All right, guys, welcome back to Zando Football. Definitely appreciate the support. In this video, we're going to get into twists and stunts. And I got to say, this was the feature that made me the most excited and encouraged me the most to get back into Madden. So I'm happy that they decided to start adding these to the game because it adds an element to the game that we've been missing for years. All right, so on the screen, what you have here, nickel over. All right, and basically what that means is obviously we're going to be in nickel, but we're going to align in the over front. Okay, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have the three technique align on the tight end side and the one technique away. From what I've seen in Madden, if the tight end is detached from the line of scrimmage, then it's dictated on which side the back is on. All right, and this video is not going to get into the passing element of twists and stunts, even though that's probably the most exciting part about twists and stunts, but it's really about the run game. Okay, because when it comes to up front, one reason why a team may want to like implement stunning and twisting and all that is because if you're going up against a team that is heavier and beefier up front, it's probably not a good idea to just line up and go toe to toe with those guys where, they just read and go through their blocking rules and attack downhill. All right. You probably want to use your speed and athleticism in your favor and leverage that. And one way to do that up front is with twists and stunts. All right. So, it really does affect the run game in ways that can complement your defense. All right. So as you can see, I called nickel over, and what we get the three technique. So we have the tight end on the side. So the three technique is here, defensive end here. We got our one technique away from the tight end. All right. I think I put the numbering system here. I'm not at all an expert when it comes to the numbering system. Okay, obviously I know what a three technique is, one, a zero, and all that. Okay, so you guys can reference this. It's all over the internet if you want to look that up in regards to the numbering system. But basically, it's a way for your front seven to know where they're going to line up. All right, and they also have numbering system for the linebackers where you have a 20, a 30, a 40, etc. I think I went over that in a previous video. Okay, but as you can see, the tight end is to the right. We have our three technique here and our one technique away. Okay, so that's nickel over, and this is where I call quarters. All right, and so here, tight end. Oh, I should have put. Let me go back. So obviously, when you call nickel, your slot corner is going to align to the passing strength of the formation. Okay, so your passing strength or your slot defender is over here. So obviously he's going to align here. And then the over front is set to the run strength of the formation. The tight end's over here. So the three technique is setting to the tight end with the one technique away. Under would pretty much be the opposite where, let's say you have your tight end here. Well, then the three technique would be here. And your one technique would be here. Okay. So here I'm going to show you a different formation where how about we get the we get a trips type formation where the passing strength and the run strength is pretty much on the same side. And again, everything's predicated on when you're setting the over front, it's where the run strength for the formation is. All right, so as you can see, tight end is again to the right. So you get your three and then you have your one. Obviously, we have our two ends here. All right, so I'm not going to go into deep detail about over and under, okay? But I think, I just wanted to kind of set a foundation for it. So what you see here, I wanted to check this, where in the game, you see how the tight end is aligned outside. I believe that's the tight end, hopefully. All right, well, they're not going to set the front towards the tight end. He's detached from the LOS, so they're going to set it to the back, right? So what you're going to get is you're going to get the three technique here, and you're going to get your one technique here. In the game, I kind of notice it almost seems when you call nickel over, it's almost like a 2-eye. Okay, so that, there's a little bit of gray area there. Okay, but that's all fine and dandy as you see here. So that's the formation, and we have our 3 techniques set to the back, and our 1 technique or 2-eye. It looks like here, set away from the back. Okay, and next up, I want to show how there's ways different formations do different things based upon the formation that's set. So to me, this is the best way. I'm not saying that this is a pure under, but let's say that we called nickel over and we want to actually play like an under front, right? Where we have like a 3 technique here and the 1 technique here. All we have to do is do a simple shift, right? So I'm going to shift to the left of the screen, and then there you go. Now we have what I would call your 3, and then you have your 1 here. So we're kind of setting away, and this is where we would get that type of front, right? Just a simple shift, right? But real quickly, I want to show you how you can change the gap responsibilities when it comes to run fits. Now, this is something that's been in the game for years. I've never went over this. Okay. I think I ran this play because I wanted to, it's kind of useless for the video, but I remember reading an article about the Tampa 2 teams of Tony Dungy, Lovie Smith. If you remember some of those players, I don't know how old you guys are, the Lance Briggs of the world, the Derek Brooks, the weak side linebacker, where, they would play in some of these under fronts. Different fronts do different things. Okay. And if you notice, this under front kind of frees up your weak side linebacker, or the backer, behind the 3 technique. I think I went over this in a previous video where we kind of funnel, sorry for that. We kind of funnel action to that backer where they can make a lot of plays, right? So here's a running play here, where I'll run it, and you can see how, we kind of free him up with the under front. That's one of the reasons why I loved under fronts. In a lot of different Maddens, I would come up with blitz concepts from under. It's probably one of my most used fronts in previous Maddens. All right. So I wanted to get to run fits because this is where we're going to tie in the stunts into the game. All right. As you can see, that was quick, but that was the run fit for, so I called cover 4 palms. As you can see, we have the run fits there. All right, for running left, I believe that's what it was. And I should show, so this is running left. You're the force run fit defender. All right, so you see the run fits there. All right, and then I should show the run fits going right. Okay, so now the force run fit defender changes, and obviously we have a contained backside. All right, but what if we shift into an under front? What does that do for the run fits? Well, it doesn't do anything, but what it does is, yes, we are aligned in a different position pre-snap, but our run fits are still the same. So remember, we were in an over front, and these 2 players were there, and their run fits were right in front of them. And this is what I have here. I read something about Cody Alexander. He something with the Bills and what they called the blood stunt, I believe he called it, where these 2 interior defenders would be responsible for the gap, not in front of them, but the gap to their left or right. All right, and it did special things for them in their run defense. Okay, and that's pretty much the same thing that happens in Madden when you shift. So you set with nickel over in the formation, and then you just shift the defensive line in a different direction. They are still tied to their original run fits. Okay, and that can do certain things for you in the running game. In regards to run fits, as you notice, look how the run fits are still the same. Okay, my run fit is still this B gap, even though there's a player in that gap, but he should try to spill over and fill his particular run gap, right? So, you can play different games against different, run concepts that your opponent is running. This is one of the weaknesses of like shotgun offset type formations. When it comes to the running game, you are really limited in the different running concepts that you can run. Okay, with this formation, we can't run, I don't want to say can't, but you're really limited in running something like inside zone split, yeah, like power and all that counter. The angles are different. You're not in optimal position to run that stuff. You're kind of limited to certain runs like inside zone, HB draw, maybe some trap plays and all that. So you can use that to your advantage as a defense, being that certain run calls are more probable to be ran than others, and utilize different fronts to present problems for those particular run concepts, among other things. Hopefully, I get into that in later videos. But that's something to know about, like shotgun. You really don't have a lot of different running concepts that you can run. All right, or I should say, you are kind of condensed. So as you can see, that's run left, and this is run right. So if they run to the right, these other fits for running right. But now we're going to get into changing the run gap responsibility, where we can change what this guy, what many players in the second level and third level are responsible for without changing the play, right? And the way you do that is by slanting your defensive line. So, you saw the picture that I just showed where, I believe this was the run left responsibility for the defense. Now watch this. Now look at, right? Notice how we changed it. This is still run left. Okay. This backer was responsible for this gap, but now it's changed to this particular gap. And that's because we've slanted the defensive line, right? So even though you're in this over front, we've shifted the run fit responsibilities by slanting the defensive line. So now you're slanting over a gap. I guess this is what Cody Alexander would call that blood stunt he was talking about. And now, because you are responsible for a different gap, we've changed the responsibilities of the backers in their run fits. Okay. And again, this can be something you can utilize to deal with specific run concepts. You can play around with whatever defensive front that you like to use. You kind of want to be sound in what you're doing, because essentially, your second level defenders are tied off of your first level defenders. And I like to say your third level defenders are tied off of your second level defenders. Everything is from the ground up. These guys are your foundation. If your run fits are screwed up, you can run into a lot of different problems on defense. Okay. So I want to show, what else did I have here? That's the run right, I believe. Okay, so now I get into stunts. So that's what I'm doing there. So the reason why I went through all of that is because you can drastically change the run fit responsibility of different players with different stunts. Okay, so watch the run fit responsibilities that are changed, or the gap responsibilities for our players. I'm going to go to the pirate stunt. I wanted to get the most drastic stunt, a 3-man stunt, to show you how drastic of a change you can get in run gap responsibility. So I went run pirate 3-man to the right. And now look at how this is a run to the left, right? So look at how much we've changed, where this guy's clearing out of there, and now this guy is taking that A gap, B gap, force run fit. He's here, right? And you can play around with this on the practice field or in game or whatever, and you could see, what type of stunt you want to run from whatever formation. You can add to it, where we shift the defensive line after we've made that stunt, and that run gap responsibility still remain the same. Now, I gotta say this, usually with the stunts that you have called, you really don't want to shift your defensive line, because they have different, they have set aiming points they want to aim for while they are whatever stunt you called. So you can kind of screw up the rhythm of a stunt with a shift. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you are tied to staying in a particular front because you called a stunt, right? So you can still play around with this stuff. And here's an example. I ran inside zone, and watch how this stunt with that, um, with how we changed the run fit responsibility. This is cover 4. All right. And look at how that downhill action we get. I didn't call a blitz or nothing like that. Drastically changed the way they would attack because we free up. I mean, as you saw in that run fit, that both of these guys are attacking downhill here on this handoff, and they are responsible for the interior gaps here. We kind of free up the player with this guy scraping over. All right. So there's different games you can play, and it's really interesting to look at. There's probably an infinite amount of different run fits you can create with this stuff, right? But again, the whole point of my channel is to give you ideas and concepts, or to show you different things that are in the game that you may not know that is in the game, and kind of get people on a different path into thinking about different things, like with these stunts and twists. And, I think a lot of people merely think about them in the passing game, but you got to think about them in the running game too. They can help your running game. Okay. So here's an example. I went over this in maybe 3 years ago. I think it's called The Power of Open Trips. And I went over how playing a double high safety defense with an over front against something like this can be a major problem, because they are pretty much exploiting the backer here because he's responsible. Why don't I go ahead and play it? And this is where you can use a particular concept like this by changing the gap responsibility to help out this player. All right, so you'll see what I'm talking about. A play like this, where we're gonna have this handoff here, but we have RPO action where he can run something like that. All right, and he runs a hitch, or he can fade it out, I believe. All right, we're just gonna target this player because he's in conflict here. All right, because his run fit responsibility with this formation, due to the fact that we stretch him out here and he's forced to cover down here. All right, he's responsible for this gap with this front set the way it is, if we keep it the way it is. And you should see the potential problem that we have here. All right, because if we hand the, I mean, this play is really designed to attack this guy. I mean, we can attack different things with it, but we can really attack this guy with what we have here. Because if we snap the ball and we get ready to hand this off, all right, if he decides to declare or play hard into his run fit, well, now we can obviously pull the ball back and throw this route here. All right. If he decides to stay in the window of this throw because he has to relate to the number 3 in a formation when he's in a split safety coverage, well, now that relieves pressure in this gap, and we can really punish the team in this gap. So you can see the issue that a play like this with this formation, this is where we get into like the theory of different formations and different things you can do. You can really punish a team for this. So here's an example where, he's attacking downhill with this run action, and now we can just throw that every single time. Or if you stay in the window like that, well, now we can attack the gap that you are responsible for a big gain. Okay, so in the video that I went over 3 years ago, okay, a simple solution for that, well, how about because his gap is here, right? That's a long distance for him to cover and have to deal with the number 3. Well, how about we shift to an underfront where we put the 3 here and we put the 1 here. So now the 1 has that gap. You have this. Okay. And now you are responsible for this gap. Yes, you still have a way to travel to defend in the run, but now it's less ground to have to travel. We relieve some of the pressure or the conflict on this player. Yes, he still can be put in the conflict, but the conflict isn't as drastic because of a simple front change up front can really help out this player. Well, this video, we can change the run fit responsibilities to where, how about we stay in this front, and then now we can kind of do a simple slant with the defensive line and maybe create something to where you're responsible for this gap, right? So, you know, the team may come out in this particular play. They like that we're in split safety over, right? And now they want to run the play and they run it. And this guy's slanting over into that gap. And then now the back has to cut back, and it kind of relieves the pressure of this backer, right? There's a lot of different things to talk about or think about when it comes to run fits. You know, we can go on video after video on almost any topic in the game of football. It's such a deep game, but you know, it's still interesting to think about, right? So that's really what this video was about, is to throw something on your plate to, you know, maybe instead of switching behind, you know, 10 different defensive formations, maybe you stick to 2, 3, or 4. You just match the personnel. You get really good at understanding the fronts and the run fits of your particular formations. You can kind of be a master at what's going on with your defense. And I think, you know, instead of being a jack of all trades guy, you can be a master at just, you know, a simplistic or simpler defense, knowing what's going to happen, knowing who's responsible for what, knowing what a particular stunt will do against inside zone from your front, etc., to make your defense better. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you got something from this video, and I hope you keep coming back for more, Matt. Peace.